Good morning, everybody. Good morning here. Welcome
Morning.
to Mending Threads, your safe place and your stronghold for whole body wellness transformation series. And we have with us today our own Pastor Samuel Massey, which leads our spiritual development here in the community and on this show. And we have with us a special guest today to discuss the topic of transformation and a spiritual journey of a pastor, is Dr. Russell Thompson. And so, welcome. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
So, don't we have an interesting topic? Because I found out from Reverend Massey, Pastor Massey, that your wife wrote a book about you entitled The Spiritual Journey of a Pastor. But and we were talking before the show about what goody stuff we're gonna find in this book that's gonna help us know how to navigate some things in the future, getting it from you and from her perspective, which is gonna be wonderful. So,
Absolutely.
but I first want to find out how did you get into the ministry and how were you called there? I mean, how did you know that this is your life's work or you had to do? What were some things that you could share with us?
Well, all the way back in 1973, it was open to me by joining the orchestra. Uh, and I played the viola for a long time, and that opened up the music world to me. And when I went to high school, which was right here in Houston, Texas, I was introduced to competition in UIL, and that opened up doors for a scholarship at Houston Baptist University, where I was a vocal major, um, and that opened up some ministry opportunities. And I accepted my call a couple of years after that in 1970, um, 1982, the year my daughter was born. And I accepted the call to the ministry, and I shared with the congregation my first message.
Oh wow! Now that seemed like that would be a most scary kind of thing to do, even though you have it within your heart. And every time I hear somebody's first message or whatever, it's like I'm holding my breath because I know that they're this is their first message and they're having to tap into themselves, to give that message. So, what are some? Can you share with us now? We want to talk this morning about transformation and the whole journey. So, I guess I wanted to know how do you know where you are now in your journey? What are some things that you are experiencing now that's different than what you used to experience, or and my goal is, and our goal, and Pastor Massey has set a frame that we're looking at real life in the world as well as how it relates to our spiritual development.
Well, I guess word picture that I can give you is it's like learning how to ride a bike. You're gonna you're gonna put the right foot before the left foot, or the left foot before the right foot. You're gonna fall down. You're gonna get up, and you're gonna practice. And that is what I call preparation. That's just a journey of preparation before you can land to really walk into the matureness of your calling, which is, in my opinion, waking up every morning knowing what your assignment is, no matter what you have planned. Today, um, according to yesterday, I had a total day planned for today. But when I heard the inside of the spirit of Pastor Massey inviting me to come, I realized that this morning was assignment. And that creates a day of worship every day. When you acknowledge God in all your ways, and the end result, He, God, will direct your pathway on each assignment. And if you do those assignments, you become part of Matthew 6 and 33. You acknowledge in the kingdom, and if you acknowledge the kingdom, no matter what you think that you need to do, All your needs will be met.
Hmm. So then, so when you're talking, I wanted to respond to that, but I'm not going to respond to that in terms of some questions that we have had on the show, because I want to stay with the thread of your journey, and I want to come out of it with some key ingredients. So, can you share some of the struggles that was significant for you, that really set you on your way? Some of your early struggles that set you on the course of knowing that this journey is the direction for you.
I think for me, being shy by nature, um, I had to come to the realization of understanding that when you have a call in your life, you need to be forward, you need to be truthful and honest with who you are. In my community, as a young man, as a young boy, one of the things that was always challenged on what was poured into you. For example, my grandmother told me never look at a person right in the eye. These days, you're taught if you don't look at a person directly in the eye, something is wrong. And so, one of my challenges um, was being affirmed all the time. That was a big rock in my life. So, if you're singing, if you're ministering, if you're if you're sharing your story, um, you need to know what you're talking about because you just can't get that pat on the back all the time. And if you don't get that pat in the back, you're going to be subject to do other things to get um, that assurance to say you're doing
Mm-hmm.
good, you're doing well, man, that was great, and you're missing the mark. And that's one of the biggest rocks I feel in the body of Christ is that you don't get that confirmation that you're doing well, you're doing what you're supposed to do. Um, and it took me years to get to that point to say, okay, if you don't get a pat on the back, if you're not affirmed, keep going. You're doing the right thing because the Bible says the peace of God shall rule your life. And if you have peace, you're on the right road. No peace,
Mm-hmm.
you're on the wrong road. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that's what I learned the hard way.
So I was doing some reading it the other day. Um, we're doing a class on mental health coaching, but there was a course on the mind that's upcoming on the mind, body, spirit, and that we're going to be taking. And they were talking about the idea that in transformation, spiritual transformation, is that you will have initially the struggle, and I'm going to ask you how you, the initial struggle, like you were mentioning, that you're all on how other people view you and how you're going to fit in to that. But then that's part of you developing a past so that you can move to the next place. So it's like getting up every day dealing with a problem, dealing with being in the situation you're in. And then when you struggle and come out of that, some kind of awareness each time you do it, a better way to do it, that is taking you to the next step, whether we know it or not, and how we come out of that.
That's excellent.
Tells yes, tells how fast and what the situation is going to look like.
See, I was designed always. First, I want to say, in order to get to exactly in the area that you're talking about, Howard Hughes wrote a book, and he said, "You're only what you are with the people around you." So,
Hmm.
if you have a certain community around you, that is what's going to pour you out of your heart on what people are gonna see and what you're gonna see. And if it's not the right pouring, that is one miserable feeling because you're always a copy of someone else. The way you speak, the way you communicate, the way you look,
Hmm.
the way you comb your hair is
Hmm.
always a copy. But when you get settled in your gut on who you are, because I mean, You have no control on the way your face is shaped, on the way
Mhm.
your what color your eyes are. And so once you accept those elements, you are able to get down the road. And if you're not willing to accept that, it's going to cause a breakdown. It's going to cause a fall in your life.
Mhm.
It's going to cause a setback in your life on
Mhm.
what you need to do.
Mhm.
Um, for example, in my life, when I started leading worship and the way I shared, it was not popular. It's not juicy enough. It's and what they call spirit filled and entertainment. It was always a horizontal experience where if I didn't do anything to minister directly to the people, well, they didn't really consider that ministry. And so I was called to be.
I'm not. Pastor Massey can help me if he can help me understand what you're saying. So minister to what do you mean horizontal or minister to the people that they missed out on that? Because I want to say this and I don't know if that's what it means. Okay, so when I am in a service and the pastor's speaking, I'm listening to the words and I'm experiencing where I am. Okay, and I'm trying to get the message and to see how the message fits with me and where I am and what I have experienced around me. But when it gets to be to something, like they want you to do something outside of where you are. They want you to move around or do something because everybody's doing it. Sometimes I lose the experience. You understand? I lose where, yes, the spirit feel. I lose the touch with the spirit because now it seems to be something that everybody got to do together.
Can I make a comment
Yes.
on it? Um, I think it hinges on cultural diversity. You know, a lot of people, say black people, they
Hmm.
expect for something to be done in a certain way. And if it's not done in the way that they're used to, then they want to reject it. It's like, you know, the traditional, you come into the church and the deacons get up there and start singing how they sing,
Yes.
and that's what they're used to. And then if somebody come in with a different outlook
Format
on praise and worship, because see, it's dealing with praise and worship.
worship. I see.
And
Hmm.
when you're praising God, you know, you're not trying to make the people happy or feel good. You're worshiping God, and you're not worshiping the people. So I mean,
Yes.
I just wanted to throw
Yes.
that in.
Yes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and if I can tag on, um, what I define as horizontal, if it's preaching or singing, it's when you communicate directly to the people. It's horizontal. But when you direct anything to God, within everything you say, everything you do is vertical. Is directly to the God. So
Yes.
the language change, the spirit change. Um, it's I, uh, and it's not reflective like what we used to do. We used to climb up on the rough side of the mountain, but when it's a vertical experience, God, I love you. I worship you. I honor you. We come to worship Him and not the
Hmm.
people.
Amen.
Which
Yes.
when you agree, Pastor Massey?
Yes. Oh yeah. Totally agree.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
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 yeah.
And that's
So
basically what I was conveying. You know, when you're worshiping God, the anointing is going up to Him,
Yes.
and you're not trying to make the people feel good, but you're
Yes.
trying to, you know, bring in the Spirit, bring in the anointing, cause the presence of God to be in that place.
right,
Yes. So if I had to to explain what I was saying then. So you're saying, and so me as being in the congregation, when we are worshiping and to be with God like that, I can experience it when the pastor is doing it. I can experience it more. But when the pastor starts um when it seems like something happens when he moves away or she moves away and they're doing something and they're engaging all the people, somehow then that becomes so distracting.
Right.
And so we many of the people we're speaking about that, how that takes us away from being with the message, like an alignment or connectedness or something.
Yes, I don't want to sound hypocritical because it's not a critique. It's just saying that if you decide that you want more, you want deeper. Um, it's like telling your husband, like telling your wife, listen, we're not going to eat burgers tonight. We're going to go down to the nicest steakhouse or the nicest fish house, and we're going to have a real elegant layout, and you
Yes,
just feel better. You prepare better. You don't go into these nice restaurants with, I mean, maybe sometime these days, but you're going to have to put on the coat. You're not going to go in there with holy jeans, but you're going to prepare. You're going to look good. And
yes,
before our Lord and King, we just, to get the most that we need to get out of today, we're going to have to do a little bit more preparation, mindset, before we get to the house of prayer, to
that's
the
right.
house,
Hmm.
I mean, to the house of God, so we can leave with what our assignments are for that a week, because
Yes,
we'll study training ourselves and what we need to do.
yes, yes. And I think a lot of that we need a little bit. That's my personal thing. We need a little bit more of the meat and a, and a little bit less of the potatoes or whatever it is. And so, but I do. I mean, I don't mean in one place or another, but I mean in general.
Right.
In general, when you just turn the TV on or whatever, just in general. But I think you're right on track there. So, what are some of the key people who have been instrumental in your journey, and in
Well,
how? Hmm.
my first it was the church that I grew up in. I'm a church boy. I'm the guy that grew up and sung in the junior choir. And I'm talking about the Baptist, more the Baptist denomination.
Hmm.
Um, but so my first pastor, which was my uncle, he shepherded me, he pastored me. I believe to this day, he prepared me on reverence, on how to walk in reverence. And that reverence, pours over to everybody. He was one. Um, my first real boss in church. And by the way, this is all I've done is full-time ministry, was John Osteen. When I worked, for him, he made me work 2 years before I was able to get on that stage and do anything. I cleaned bathrooms, I cut the lawn, I painted before I was issued one dime, um,
Hmm.
before that happened. And he prepared me um, to to understand what ministry was. That was a second person. Third person was a guy by the name of Rufus Smith. He became Pastor Rufus Smith. He became a ministry partner where we prayed, and he was a guy that understood, that made me understand. Okay, you're a preacher, you're a good singer, you all of that, but you're not all of that. This is me. So he was able to peel some of that stuff, what I call stuff, out of you, you know. So I grew up, not understanding that I needed someone to take my briefcase and open the door and all that stuff. Um, you work like everybody else, and you'll get the honor. And so he was very um, a great part in my life, and that there are many others across the country and across the world that has helped me. Um, I'm thinking of mine of a pastor in Kendra uh, that really taught me about serving people. So that those are key people. My mother that prayed. I heard her praying and moaning and growing many times of the night and saw the results of her prayer and her labor. Um, so there was many people in my life that I can just give, real credit on how my life was just formatted. And I really thank them. But it would take this time tomorrow to just acknowledge and thank people. Even um, brother Pastor Massey, that's here with us this morning. He was a great impact on my life. Now, if you want to hear somebody that can pray and holler and act up and really before God with a David spirit, that's Pastor Massey. He can do that on a dime, and I really enjoy seeing him because I'm a stiffy. Um, but Pastor Massey, when he released the ministry, he
Mhm.
has. We used to look at him and said he has no shame. He just get up there right before the Lord and just worship the Lord. And you have to catch up. He didn't have time to say, "Come on, clap your hands. Come on, do this here." He was just
He
in
just
the
start
clap,
right, or he'd just be right on it.
and you had to catch up. And sometimes he'd be in there by himself, and you have to catch up. The Spirit of God was so strong, and that's what we don't see today. We want everybody to be in there. Well, let's wait a few minutes and see who shows up. Um, and everything is based on respond. But if you get up there and you just do what's inside of you, people will be chasing you. You won't have to chase people for nothing. They will be
Mhm.
on time because they don't want to miss the presence of God. Because once you had that drink, like the Bible says, you'll never
Mhm.
thirst again. Never, never thirst
Mhm.
again.
Mhm. Well, I do know that he has a lot of meaning in his church. Okay, I mean, I've been to some of his services, and I do know that when you go and you leave, you will leave with a message, something that you will be able to use and follow, and you'll know what you have experienced. I do know that. Hmm.
I did want to share with you a incident that happened in my life that was just life changing. Now, I can tell you how I traveled around the world twice, which is true. I can tell you that I've met people that I thought I would never meet, like John Osteen,
Hmm.
like big faith people, popular pastors in my life. But I was unfortunately a minister um, about 7 years ago that had a fall in my life. And when I say fail or fall, um, sometimes that can be a religious term for I sinned, I made a mistake, I came short, way short of the glory of God that caused a silence in my life where I got off track. And um, it really, it never cost me my ministry, but it did cost, um, some character, some integrity, some
Hmm.
things on how people used to view me. Because, you know, being a being quiet in nature, workaholic, always serving um, on television, on radio. Oh no, he would never do that. But I did. I made a mistake. It embarrassed the church. It embarrassed my family. Embarrassed my friends. Some friends never came back to this very day. But to the glory of God, when you talk about transformation, God said He'll never leave you. He'll never forsake you. And I just want to let the people that are looking out there, that are listening, that if you're walking in something and you know you're not supposed to be doing, take heed because it can sometimes cost you everything that you have. Now, God in heaven, He'll forgive you. He'll forgive from the east to the west. But people, sometimes, they'll never remind you. To this very day, people come to you and they come to me and they say, "Oh, you're Russell Thompson." I said, "Yep, I'm the one that made the mistake about 7 years ago. Yeah, I'm the one that they was flashing on Channel 13 and Channel 26. But God has been good. I have recovered, and I'm now walking on the same path of God."
Well, in terms of some other reading, not only by Garden, but even the National Institute of Health, and then there's a spiritual development section that they have for APA in the American Psychological Association. And one of the things that they talk about is when we're going through a transformation, that we must have something in our lives that actually brings some sense of being still with ourselves. That initially we are fighting, we'll come to a place where we're fighting against something or whatever is going on. Something will come and we'll have to debate against that, whether it's being the history of slavery or whether it's something. But it's how we respond to that that determines what we're going to peel back. And when we start peeling back and letting go of all the old stuff, it depends on what we're going to do in the moment and how we're going to be with ourselves and where our real beliefs are. And so it takes something to happen. And as you mentioned a couple of people where you had to go through some things and you were in your peeling process the way you're describing it, when the person made you do certain things and another person brought you to the attention that there are things that you need to do. So all of those was your were as you describe in your process to come to the place to be still so you could really see what your new journey, what your new place is going to be, what is he's telling you to do now. That's where I'm understanding. What and that's why I want to know what that's brought you to a place of understanding what about you and God and people in the present in our hearts.
You know, that's real good what you just said. Sometimes, and I read a lot of reflective stories of the world trains you to every step that you make that you're supposed to move up. Um, but what I found in my silence, in my listening, where God had shut my life down, is that it wasn't really going up. It was either leveling, it was a balance, or really going down. Because I have to look at, um, who I am now. If if God told me, your day is going to be a day where you're going to have to clean restrooms, man, it would be so much joy in my heart that if I have to clean restrooms than if I was singing in front of 30,000 people, which I have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't consider, I consider whatever pleases the Lord is my promotion, not things that that the world considered, oh, he's successful, she's successful. Because I still, I mean, I know my wife for 46 years. She's always been by my side. My kids that are now grown, I have grandkids. That has been a sense of success for me because of my family unit that we're able to talk about good issues and bad issues. And then
Mm-hmm.
they talk to their friends and they talk to their friends about truth, not
Mm-hmm.
about something that has happened, something that um, might happen, and we have this facade.
Yes.
Um, so, um, and I don't want to dress around words. Um, I want to be specific as possible so you can truly understand my heart. My heart
Mhm.
is to minister to anyone that's needed. If it's two or 2,000, that is where I want to be. And that's a part of the stimulation in my life on how God is still working on me.
Mhm. So my grandfather used to tell me. So I tell sometime I tell it. So I used to live with my grandfather during the summers, and I lived there until I was 6. So I'm walking around in the urban area, but truly my heart always wants to be kind of like in a rural area. So one of the things is that he taught me something, and he said you have to learn how to. I wanted they used to have to get water and go to a big river to get the water, and they would put the horses the hook them to a sled or something, and put the barrels on the sled.
Uh oh.
So, yes, and then they would drive. They would have to make the horses go around, and so in order to get around the bridge, you had to go to a deep place where you look down. And you could, if you didn't know how to handle the horses, you could, tumble over because
Right?
the horses would pull you over. And I always wanted to do it. Please let me do it. Please let me do it. And he says, when your time comes, I will know it and you will know it. Okay. When the time comes. I didn't know you had all these other things you had to do before you could do that. You had to do your chores before someone asked you. You had to want to do these things that you're speaking about. You had to show dedication and consistency, and you had to go through struggles, and when you didn't want to do something, and you have all that kind of stuff. And so finally one day he said, I think you're about ready. You have just made it. I think you're going to do it. Here, take the reins. I tell you, my heart fell. I was so scared. It's something I always wanted to do, but I knew I was going to have to go around there. And so I actually did. And he said, when you're taking the reins, you must know when you fall or make a mistake, what you're going to have to do. You're going to know, you don't know exactly what you're going to do, but you're going to have to put a plan in place because you're in charge. And you're going to have to be in the moment and know how you feel because the horses are going to know how you feel. You see?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying. You see? And so I learned a lot of stuff like that about what you're speaking. So that brought to my mind. So I was able to get around, but I tell you, my hands were wet when I did it. But when I finished, I knew more about myself. And I knew that it was important for me to stay the course because I was doing what I was supposed to do and I was doing it the right way. So then that way you have to stay the course. It doesn't make, like he said, any mistake that you made if you didn't stay exactly on the path. Okay, because that was your teaching that you needed to do to be with yourself and to communicate well to what you're trying to do and deliver your message to the horses. You see.
You
So
know, the mistakes that and the trials that has happened. If God didn't allow it, because God had to allow it, He had to command it or allow it in my life, I would have never known how to minister to a lot of people that I would have never met in my life or talk to them. Um, as much as I want to think good about myself, I had to have a little spirit of arrogance on me where I was not approachable in some kind of way. And now I just feel that I'm not there yet, but I feel like again I'm on the right,
path.
where I'm at in my journey. I'm in the right path where
Hmm.
I can stand next to someone that doesn't smell the way I smell, or talk the way I talk, or
Hmm.
so-called have the education or experience that I have, and we can have a conversation without all the other crap that you
Yes.
see. I mean,
Yes.
religious or non-religious. I mean,
Mhm.
it's just putrid sometimes on the people that has been prepared. You can't get close to them because, I mean, in a sense of a sense, I mean, nobody really want to hear what you have to say because you stink.
It's
I
not
mean,
real.
yeah, you
Yes.
stink. I mean, your life. I mean, the aroma comes across so high and so mighty till no one can really, get what they need to get that God has planned for you to give it to them.
So I talked to Pastor Massey at one time, and I think what you're saying is so helpful that so we have a transformation series as soon as we finish with the mental health coaching. And so Pastor's Massey's church is one of the lead churches, and then it's one in Third Ward Trinity United Methodist Church, and then there are a few others. There's one on Hondo Street, and different ones have, but they're whole body wellness churches. So what you're speaking about is that in search of people who can talk their truth, have been through things, that can share their experiences, help other people through their struggle. That's what I think, that's what he's asked, what God is asking us to do. I think that is what we are to do, you
Oh,
see.
absolutely. You know, a liar. Um, I just believe that um, he needs to be. If you want to get transformed, you need to talk to a reformed liar, someone have that practiced a life of theft and deception, and they have
Mm,
gotten delivered. That person can help them. I
Amen.
mean, that person can help them. Not a person said, "I never told a lie. I never stole anything. I've never cheated on my life. I've God has blessed me well. Thank the Lord. I am, never made a mistake. And let me sit down and talk to you. Good luck, buddy. Good luck, sister. Because it's just not going to really happen the way it's supposed to happen. Um, because there's a lot of people that are sick. And I don't mean bodies ill,
mhm,
um, diseased. I mean, there's a lot of disease out there
mhm.
that need help even as we speak now. That woke up this morning and said, God, why did you wake me up this morning? I didn't want to wake up this morning. I thought it was over, you know. Uh, and then it's a lot of people that are glad, that they have another day to carry out their assignment today.
Mhm. Yes, just finding the beauty. So we'll be we have this when we get on our journey finding, we'll be out listening to the birds early in the morning and trying to find our joy and meditating. So I'm looking forward to those opportunities as well. So Pastor Massey, can you talk a little bit about I wanted to hear the two of you dialogue about his spiritual journey in terms of what you're teaching and your leadership is about in terms of transformation, um, and that and the change. You know, we talked about spiritual transformation as a process. Mm,
Yeah, well, basically, what I would say is uh, God is intentional and on purpose. Everything that happened to us, uh, as Dr. Russell was saying, God allowed it. He allowed it, but there's a reason for it because somebody else is going to need your journey in order
mm,
to make it in life. And when God gave me the ministry of Real Life Christian Church,
mhm,
you know, He gave it to me at a time that sensed that. I mean, I felt like we don't need another church. You got a church on every corner. I've located 240 churches in the boundaries of McGregor, Alameda, uh, Macau Road, and the Beltway. 240 churches, literally, because I drove the streets of that area when I was working for Houston Community College. But God, He told me that the ministry that I will have would be dealing with rejected people, people that don't want uh, nobody else want to deal with. When people
Mhm.
go to prison, and I used to do prison ministry, uh, when they got out, they had nowhere to go. A lot of times the people
Mhm.
would go into the prisons and talk to the people while they were in prison. But when they
Mhm.
got out of prison, they didn't want those people at their church. And
Right.
so a lot of people that at real life, even right now today, some of those used to be former inmates. Some of them were people that I actually talked to when I went into the prisons.
Mhm.
And then there were people that were on drugs. A lot of times
Mhm.
people don't trust people. There are a lot of times because of your life situations. A lot of times people wouldn't trust you. And I would always tell the guys that I ministered to that, you know, wherever you have been in life, when you coming out of it, people are going to watch you and they're not going to want to trust you. But I said, let it be a good watch. In other words, when you're going back up, yes, they're going to watch you because I used to hire people that came out of the prisons to work at Houston Community College because I was in position to hire people. And sometimes it made me nervous because I knew I was giving them a second chance. And also, I was taking a chance because I gave them the recommendation for the job.
Mhm.
And uh, so at Real Life Christian Church, where God gave me that name, He also gave a ministry that's connected with the church called Word Application Ministries. And
Mhm.
see, what the vision of the church is to make the Word of God relevant and practical and by and applying biblical principles to practical situations and challenges of daily living. It's
Mhm.
not going to have thousands of members in a church like that.
Mhm.
You're not going to have, and I knew that, because a lot of times people say, well, why are you building the church just so you can have maybe a maximum of 300 members? I said, that's probably all I'm going to get. I'm not looking to get 10,000 people. I said, because the people, and that's why I used to go and minister at the Star of Hope mission. I used to go to the men's unit and we
Yes.
have service there. And then
Mhm.
we had like an outlet for those men to come and be a part of our ministry when they had a chance to be released, go on outings. We will go there and pick them up and we'll bring them to church. And, I have joy, dealing with people that I feel like rejected people, people that no one else wants to deal with. I say because I've experienced a lot of rejection in my own life, and I
Mhm.
know how I feel. I know
Mhm.
what it feel like to
Mhm.
be rejected. Because throughout life, I could go back to many instances in my life and share times that I felt rejection. I
Yes.
knew
Yes.
rejection. So
But
I,
you know, like what you're talking about is really what both of you speak is really what preparing you. I know in my own life, uh, the rejection, the deaths. You know, right now I'm better able to handle people who experience loss and pain because of the loss, the many losses that I've experienced. I mean, I'm talking about when I speak of loss, I'm the one that's generally there when they're transitioning, you understand? And personal, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, children. But I'm better able to do and help people. But what helped me is to understand what it's all about, and then now I'm able to help another person to make that. So even the rejection that others have had along with that, I think has really made me a better person, a more open person to receive and accept other people and recognize that even the people that you're working with from the different places, from prison or from the centers, are really in the process of God or being developed or healing them. They're just along that process, you see. And so I think you were asked to be there to help in that process of getting them ready to help other people. You see, for them to ready to even be where they need to be and to have peace and be in their spiritual self, however they want to define it.
yes,
You see, and away from the frustration and be blind. You're smiling when I said, but so I do know that a couple of people have mentioned to me being there has really helped them. You see, and so I think that that's a little secret there. That's a little secret. Hmm. So it's
and
not that it may be what I'm thinking. It's like you think 300 people in a building, but in that you may not be only in a building.
right, right,
Okay, it may be that your 300 people are those people to grow multitudes. You
and it's
see,
those people that's been trained to help people
yes,
that's hurting. It's not
yes,
like you have a ministry of, like the normal church where people come to church and they praise dance and they sing songs and do whatever. But
ritualized.
right, but
Hmm.
this church, everybody is being trained.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Hmm.
Everybody in the church, the whole church, is being trained to minister to people
Yes.
hurting, minister to people that are being
Hmm.
rejected, and going out of those walls and going all over the city and all over the country and all over the state to be ministers and then come back, you know,
Right.
to real life because that's what we're all about.
That's what it's about. Hmm. So I think so. I think this is really good. So Pastor Thompson, I wanted to ask, so then your richness that you've experienced, I think of it like making a cake and, you getting, all this chocolate icing and stuff like that. So can you share the richness out of it and the richness that you want to share with other people, how you plan to share it, how you plan to give it? Can you share this richness? Because I hear um, we have a thing called transformation to transcendence, that process. So, can you share your transformation to transcendence process, the richness where you are now, and how you would help other people with your richness?
Well, I think one of the elements that uh, jumps out of my soul and spirit is that I'm at peace and I can impart real peace and joy, um, no matter what the situation is. And I think before what you call richness, it was just it looked like a cake, it smelled like a cake, but it was it just didn't taste good. And now I think that what God has given me, this great gift, which will be just a gift of transparency,
Mm-hmm.
joy, and peace, where the end result is that they can be transformed because they can trust what I say and what I do.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things we want to leave the people with, I think, and we can all chime in as I hear, is they must then find something that they can hold steady to, a word or a belief or a God that they hold steady to, and they must then accept difficulties that come to them and be able to know that they cannot hold on to old things, but they must move to renew themselves in their beliefs and move to another place of attaching something new to the beliefs so that it can create an action or a giving or holding on to or that would give them peace, and then being in the moment with that peace, being in the moment and recognize that when you hold on to the peace, you also have to share it with someone else. And you have to make sense of it for you and another person and other people. So that's what I'm coming out of with now that I'm going to let you all come out of. Anything I missed?
Oh,
I think you said it very well. And Dr. Lewis, I just want to take this time to thank you for your time and your brilliance. And Dr. Pastor Massey, thank you for inviting me. It's been a great time and to share. And uh, I pray that whatever is shared, um, someone will be just encouraged today. Be encouraged um, that God hasn't finished with you yet, no matter
Well,
what it
thank
is.
you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
It's been wonderful talking to you and Pastor Massey, of course. So we're coming to the end, and I do want to make some announcements before we end that please sign up for the mental health coaching program, which is a spiritual development. It's internationally certified training for pastors, faith leaders, and also service persons in the community. We have a section for like beauticians, massage therapists, barbers who come direct contact with individuals for the purpose of helping to heal and bring transformation to our community. So take the time and go to wrc-houston.com. Please sign up and express your interest. If you have a question, you can go on IPS. The email is ips.health1@gmail.com. And we'll look forward to hearing from you. Other than that, we will see you real soon. Remember this: renew beliefs, rebuild faith, and reconnect families and communities. For it is not the circumstances we meet, it is the manner in which we respond that determines health, happiness, and success. And please go out and purchase the book, Journey of a Worship Pastor, so we could see how that's going to relate to our actions. Okay, thank you. And I look forward to seeing you all next week, same time, same place. Thank you.
all right.
Thank you.
Okay, bye bye.